and it is being streamed on the America's Pulse Network. Today we are featuring an encore presentation of a previous episode while Alexandra is traveling and attending candidate events. Please click the subscribe button to be notified of upcoming episodes. If you enjoy the show, please share Alexandra Levine live with others. Alexandra looks forward to being back with you live for the next episode. Tonight's Alexandra Levine live podcast starts now.
Alexandra Levine welcomes you to the Alexandra Levine Live Podcast. Today, we've got a packed show, from breaking news to informative topics that will keep you well informed. Tonight's Alexandra Levine Live Podcast starts now.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello. This is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. You are all in with me tonight. Alexandra Levine. We have some breaking news. It's not political this time, but this has something to do with some incidents that have happened. And it's very important that we memorialize these people and we keep them in our hearts. Let's go to the first breaking news by my good friend David Harris Jr. from Newsmax. So this is just insane what happened. Breaking news this morning, a JP Morgan executive allegedly used her power to sexually harass, abuse, racially abuse, and threaten the career of a junior male employee. She's accused of turning the male broker into a, quote, sex slave. I bring this up because this actually comes on the heels of the movie Baby Girl, which was starred Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for her performance. Nicole Kidman was the executive that was being taunted and tortured and manipulated by her 21-year-old employee, having an affair with him and so forth. And basically he said to her, you better do what I want or I could ruin your life, ruin your marriage, and so forth. It's basically what this woman did. It's disgusting that this is happening in the workplace. It's disgusting that this was allowed for so long. That's why we have something called HR. And I always tell people, if you've been sexually harassed, sexually assaulted at work, there's nothing wrong with reporting it. And I know, especially in high profile settings, such as if you're an intern or you work for a congressman or a senator or a governor, and a lot of times these men have power, these women have power, and they use their power in a very bad way. And if you, God forbid, report them, your careers could come to an end. But this is disgusting that someone at JP Morgan, an executive, is doing this. It shows you the lack of decency that JP Morgan Chase has, and also that he can't control his executives. I hate to say it. This is what happens when you have something called a DEI hire. She is a DEI hire. And I know a lot of countries outside, like in Australia, for example, they hire a lot of women. They're called DEI hires that really don't know what they're doing. They're very manipulative, and they find a way to make it to the top by really not doing any business and just making men their sex slaves. Well, I'm glad that this was called out. I'm glad that somebody said something, but this shouldn't have happened to begin with. This is disgusting. And again, if you see something, say something. If you're a woman and you don't feel comfortable going into the workforce with men, you have every right not to go. It doesn't matter if you're W-2 or 1099, you have to feel comfortable in the workforce and you have to feel comfortable where you are. Now, the next breaking news is very tragic to my heart. It's very, very sad. A nice New York rabbi, he took a trip to Colombia, and unfortunately he was in an area where there was a lot of Colombian gangs. And it's funny because a couple of my friends, they just went to Colombia, and I joked saying, hope you don't end up with those gangs. They've been reading reports of people getting killed. Well, this actually really happened. New York rabbi found dismembered, stuffed in a closet after being killed by a Colombian gang. This is a real story, guys. Real story, true story. It's disgusting, totally, totally disgusting that this happened. And I believe that he was discriminated against. I believe he was dismembered and killed because he was a rabbi, a very Orthodox rabbi. You could see he's very religiously observant. He wears a kippah. He has payas. He wears a religious hat for holidays. It's very disgusting to me, very disgusting that this had to happen. And this happened on the heels of Passover as we're going into Shavuot. Shavuot is a very important day in Judaism. It's when we obtain the Torah. And it's really, really sad that this had to happen. And I feel bad for his family. And I really hope, guys, that we memorialize the fallen. We memorialize this guy. And I feel so bad for his family. If I do find a GoFundMe for his family up in New York, I will definitely put it on our network. This should never happen to anyone, regardless of their religion. It's disgusting. And again, our hearts go out to his family. Now, I normally don't do a monologue, but I felt like tonight I had to do something because a lot of people really don't understand what transcribed with the King and Queen of England and the President and the First Lady. The grace, the beautiful decor, the way that the President greeted the King and Queen. It was so magical and it was so beautiful. And President Trump had a really great relationship with his mother, with Queen Elizabeth. And he talks about her. And there was a guy who just wrote a book about Queen Elizabeth II and what a wonderful monarch she was. And people really don't see or understand why President Trump greeted the people the way that he did. And of course, we have this whole thing with kings. President Trump is a king. President Trump is a king. No, he's not a king. This showed that he wasn't a king. But it was interesting, and we'll get into that later, how the Democrats in the halls of Congress stood up for King Charles. They literally stood up for a king. But they're against, President Trump because they consider him a king, and they have these no kings rallies all over the country. So the hypocrisy, again, of the Democrats shouted really loudly. But the first picture I want to show you is, I call it the two ladies in white. So this was the second day that Queen Camilla was there with the First Lady. I mean, just beautiful how they color coordinated. They were both wearing hats. It was a rainy day. And the president, he just honored him and welcomed him up on the stage, said such beautiful things about him. Actually commented that his mom, his late mother, had a big crush on Charles when he was younger. And it was a rainy day. And it was just so beautiful, again, to see the grace, the honor that President Trump and the FLOTUS gave to Camilla and to Prince Charles. Let's go to the next picture. So the next picture depicts the evening. So that night they had a gorgeous dinner in honor of the King and Queen. And look at the beautiful dress that the FLOTUS is wearing. She looks beautiful in everything that she wears, in the tuxedo. And to see the armed guards there with the British flag in the background. And then as you walk in, the dinner was just exquisite food. The entertainment was beautiful. They had opera singers there. They had violinists. They had people from the military that were performing behind everybody. And they had some very famous people there. The president's children were there. They had some very famous Fox News anchor people there and people in the media that were there, certain people. I mean, it was a very beautiful night. It was a very, very beautiful night. And Laura Ingraham even commented how she's never seen such a dinner in her life in the years that she's been reporting President Trump and so forth and other presidents. And we'll go to the next picture and it'll show you what King Charles and what Camilla was wearing. And the jewels that she was wearing were actually jewels from famous queens. As you know, when you become the queen, you inherit, they call it the queen's jewels. So she's either wearing Queen Elizabeth's jewels, Queen Victoria's jewels, Queen Anne's jewels, Queen Catherine's jewels, whatever Queen of England that they had, those are what they call the queen's jewels. And it's very beautiful for her to wear that, to show that off. A lot of people picked on her outfit a little bit. But you know what? I think she looks great and she looks happy, and that's what's important. Now, let's go to the next slide. This was really interesting. The Newsmax was reporting that because President Trump has Scottish lineage in his blood through his mother, that somehow he's King Charles's 15th cousin. So this guy, Anthony Macra, said, did you all hear? We don't have a king, but we have royal blood. Trump is 15th cousin to King Charles. Well, I can tell you, the story has been debunked. That was a speculation. Some people think that maybe President Trump is his 15th cousin. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I asked a lot of people that are famous historians. I think they just want another news cycle. And then President Trump, he's so cute. He retruthed a picture of him and King Charles and said, the kings. So it was really, really cute. And he was kind of mocking the fact that, he could be a royalty. And there was a news anchor that asked him, President Trump, we heard you may be the 15th cousin to King Charles. Like, oh my God, that's great. He's like, I would love to go into Buckingham Palace. I've never been to Buckingham Palace. I'd love to live in Buckingham Palace. So, I mean, President Trump kind of played it off. It was very funny. But my question to my audience later is, do you believe in this? Do you think that President Trump is the 15th cousin to King Charles? Do you think that this was just an extra news story that the mainstream was trying to fill in? But it's very interesting that people, that were complaining that President Trump was a king or acting like a king, and now they're saying, well, he may have royal blood in him. So I find that very ironic and very interesting. And then this last slide. So again, the irony of everything, like I said earlier. So King Charles, he spoke in the halls of Congress, and all the Democrats stood for him. The No Kings crowd greets King Charles with a standing ovation. President Trump, he made a statement that night at the dinner. He said, I'm very impressed that King Charles got every single Democrat to stand in Congress. I can't even get that. They all protest me. So these people like Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib and Ayanna Pressley that were there all stood up for King Charles, didn't protest him. I guess they just love what he's doing over in England, in the UK. Let me tell you something. The economy in the UK is not doing very well. The rise of anti-Semitism in the UK is atrocious. And if people didn't know, while King Charles and Queen Camilla were visiting, there was a huge terrorist attack in the UK on Jews. It hurt Jewish people. Some were even killed. The anti-Semitism has gotten really bad in the last several years in the UK. The Prime Minister of the UK, he does nothing to combat anti-Semitism. He works with Zelensky. He works with George Soros. They work hand in hand with the EU to make sure that they have tons and tons of money to import all these illegals. And a lot of them are illegal terrorists, illegal Muslims. A lot of them live in the UK. They're trying to help Mr. Zelensky. They want him to beat Vladimir Putin. I mean, the whole thing is just asinine, how the parliamentary system works in the UK. But what I'm scared about is that the country of Hungary, they just went through a whole election. And the new guy, one minute he sounds like a capitalist Republican, the next he sounds like a radical leftist. And he will be probably working with the EU, and he probably will be signing off to give Zelensky $90 billion, which is what we don't want. The guy claims that he will keep building the wall and making sure the immigration system is stricter than it was under Orban, but I don't know if I believe that, especially after he said he would arrest Netanyahu if he enters his country. The hatred against Jews has to stop. We're in what I told you. The holiday through Passover, now we are doing something called counting the Omer up into Shavuot, which is where we get the Torah, the 10 Commandments. Can we not just have peaceful holidays? Can we not just have a peaceful holiday? Again, people honored the king and queen. President Trump honored the king and queen. My question to the other European leaders, will they honor the FLOTUS and the POTUS the same way? Will they give President Trump the grandeur and the respect that President Trump has given them over the years? Will they do the same thing with President Trump and Melania that President Trump did with the king and queen? Because this was an exquisite visit, to the point where King Charles and Camilla came back today for a final goodbye before they left to go back to the UK. But they had a great few days. There was not one thing that they complained about. There was not one thing bad that happened. It was a great moment. A great moment coming off an amazing dinner, an amazing visit. So again, my question to the other European leaders, will you honor the president as well as he honored King Charles and Queen Camilla? Now we go into segment one. So segment one, let's start off with the first slide, please. So this is really important, guys. We're still dealing with if John Thune is going to push to pass the Save America Act. This is something that's so important to Americans right now. And as you know, current Americans are going through midterms. We're going through early voting in certain states. We're going through primaries. I want to make sure that this is passed before any major elections are happening. I mean, they're all major, but I'm talking about huge gubernatorial races out there, huge municipality races out there, congressional races out there. This is so important that each governor, like my governor, Ron DeSantis, steps it up and signs a bill to redistrict out these damn Democrats that have been there for years, that do not have the American people's best interest at heart. And my governor set the stage to overturn the horribleness of what happened in Virginia a couple weeks ago. But President Trump said, America's elections are rigged, stolen, and a laughingstock all over the world. They're either going to fix them or we won't have a country any longer. I'm asking all Republicans to fight for the following. Save America Act. Number 1, all voters must show photo ID identification. All voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. No mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military, or travel. I 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. All voters must show voter ID, some type of identification. It's very important. We have a bunch of liberal states that it's not a requirement. We're going to be interviewing someone in the next 10 minutes that can tell you all about that. Let's go to the next slide, please. So real Donald Trump, he got a huge victory this week. And it's so funny because he didn't know about it until someone in the Oval Office, a reporter, asked him a question about it. He's like, what are you talking about? Did we win? Is it good for Republicans? And actually the left-wing mainstream media and anchor woman said, yes, it was a win for Republicans. She didn't want to say it. I could tell I could feel in her body and her face, she was cringing to say it, but she actually admitted that the Republicans won something. So it didn't happen today, but it happened a couple of days ago. The 6-3 Supreme Court decision in the Callus case is a big one for equal protection under the law, as it returns the Voting Rights Act to its original intent, which was to protect against intentional racial discrimination. Thank you to brilliant Justice Samuel Alito for authoring this important and appropriate opinion. The fact that it had to be even authored to begin with is asinine. I thought we were over racial discrimination. I thought we were over discrimination, period. But apparently we're not. And there was something that was overturned recently in a state that said, only white people can live here. I mean, the fact that that was even put into law is disgusting. The fact that it took this long to overturn it is even more disgusting. Again, we shouldn't be having to deal with racial discrimination. And who started it? Barack Hussein Obama. Barack Hussein Obama started with the racial discrimination, the Islamophobia, the xenophobia. It came back under Biden, Kamala Harris, which was still Obama. And George Soros, of course, pushed the socialist narratives in. And we're all created equal, not in his image. No, that's not true. What George Soros' mission is to say everybody has to act the same, work the same, make the same living. Everybody has to have the same health care. That's socialism. The government tells you what to do. But here, the Supreme Court, they brought justice back to Lady Justice, I should say. And it's very important to note this decision because this was a big win for President Trump and for the Republicans. But the fact that the Supreme Court even had to make a decision on this is asinine, very asinine. And yeah, it's true. My friend Donald Willinger, when was World War XI? So that was a comment made by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in January 2025, when President Trump, a couple days after he took office again, she says that President Trump's going to make our country turn into World War XI. World War II. World War XI, does she not know Roman numerals? Is she that stupid? And she's a congresswoman. World War XI. I mean, that's just like beyond stupid. I mean, the woman hates our country. But to screw up like that in front of the nation is embarrassing, and she should be embarrassed. She's disgusting. Let's put up the next slide. So the next slide is by Edward Cohn. And again, he talked about Florida. Democracy is booming in Florida. He's a Floridian. The House voted today and a whopping 83 representatives voted for redistricting as opposed to 28 stinking no votes. Yes, we can. The Florida House of Representatives passed a bill approving the state's new congressional redistricting map in the lower chamber. That was yesterday. The map unveiled by my governor, Ron DeSantis, could add 4 congressional seats for Republicans ahead of the 2026 midterms. The vote was 83-28 in the House. I applaud the Florida House of Representatives for doing this. I know there's been some divide. I know there's some rhinos in the Florida House, but I appreciate them doing this. I appreciate the governor working steadily and working fast to get this passed as well. I know he spoke with a lot of these House reps to get this passed, and it will go on my governor's desk and he will sign it. It's so important, guys. It's so important to get with your governor. And I know there's a lot of liberal governors out there, but start with the Republican governors. As you know, Indiana had a huge issue with the rhinos in the state legislature that would not pass a bill. Indiana really screwed it up. And that's why in Virginia, people voted no. But again, because of this happening, I really hope that it will override and overturn what was voted on in Virginia, because the governor of Virginia is a piece of crap. And she met with the king and queen, and she talked about what her platform is, which she's been doing. She even talked about the legislation she passed, and he shook his head. He was not supportive of what she's doing to her state. And so many people are leaving Virginia. They're going to West Virginia. They're going to Florida. They're going to South Carolina. They're going down south because they've hashtag had enough. They've hashtag had enough of the BS. I really wish that more Republican governors, like my governor, Ron DeSantis, would do their due diligence and work on this new congressional redistricting map. And the funny thing is that the Democrats, they're all up in arms about it. Like Gavin Newsom is oh, we're going to do new redistricting. Governor Westmore, oh, we got to redistrict to make sure Andy Harris is not the Republican congressman anymore. Make it all 8 Democrats. It's so funny. The Democrats are known for gerrymandering, but when the Republicans try to do something right, they get schooled by the Democrats over it. It's disgusting. It's really sick. But this is a victory, guys, for the Republicans. And guess what? It's giving people hope now to go out and vote. And I'll talk about this later. We have so many seats now, so many elections, re-elections. I want those Republicans to go out and vote in these primary elections. I know they're in the heart of the summer. People go on vacation, they get lackadaisical, whatever. But the hardcore 3 to 4 star, 5-star Republicans that always vote in every primary re-election. Do not feel disenfranchised. Do not feel discouraged. I don't care if you live in a red state or a blue state. Go out and vote. Exercise your right to vote, because if you don't vote, it gives the Democrats more power. If you don't vote, we get more of these radical crazies in there. All these special elections are happening, and all these radical crazies are getting in. It's disgusting. Our country is going to be turning into a terrorist country with all these terrorists that are becoming congressmen and senators, or trying to become congressmen and senators. Don't allow that to happen. Take back your country. You have the will to vote. I can tell you on a personal note, they have something called the Baltimore Jewish Council, owned by the Associated. They claim on their flyer, candidate forum, May 13th at such and such a place at such and such a time, that we invited all candidates to come speak. And then they list the specific districts. It's Baltimore County Council districts, 2, 3, and 4, Baltimore state districts, and they're 11, 14, and 17. Doesn't say about Baltimore County Executive, says Baltimore County Sheriff, even though he's being primaried out. And there's another position in there too. So I wrote to the woman, and I said, your flyer says all candidates. How come they're all Democrats? And she said, what are you talking about? We invited all candidates. I said, no, you didn't. I said, there's 9 Baltimore County districts. There's 9. They had a vote. They moved it from 7 to 9. Why are you only inviting certain people running in those districts? I said, there's no Republicans. You did not invite even people running for Baltimore County Executive. Now, Baltimore County Executive, there's 3 Democrats that are part of the Baltimore County Council that are running for Baltimore County Executive, but there's 2 Republicans and an independent that is also running for Baltimore County Executive, but she didn't invite them. So then, after I caught her in the lie, she writes me back, she says, well, we're only focused on the districts that have a majority of Jews. I said, well, what about Baltimore County Executive? And she said, we did reach out to all the candidates. We reached out to them several months ago. Well, I contacted the independent and one of the Republicans that was running for Baltimore County Executive. They confirmed with me that they had not been contacted, emailed to come to this forum. Now, this forum is supposed to be open to the public, and it's for constituents, voters, to meet who their next county executive is, county council, and so forth. But they limited it to just a Democrat forum. This is a partisan forum, not bipartisan. This is a partisan forum. And I guess they centered it only on Jewish Democrats. Now, let me tell you something. I'm a Jew, and I worked my butt off to get Jews to hashtag leave the Democrat Party. And this was before October 7th. But I also educated my Jewish Democrat friends to see the light between these Democrats and the Republicans. And I told them, don't vote for a party, vote who represents you. That's why a lot of Jewish Democrats voted for Trump in the 2016, 2020, and especially the 2024 election. Now, I know we're in a primary, but there's a lot of Jewish Republicans in the Baltimore area, especially in Pikesville and Owings Mills and Reisterstown and Towson. I know a lot of them. They would like to hear from all of the candidates. But because the Baltimore Jewish Council, the Associate, only invited Democrat candidates, they're basically telling you, if you're a Jew, you should only vote Democrat. This is your only choice as a Jewish constituent of Baltimore County. And there's a lot of Jews in Baltimore County. So for them to say, well, we only focus on the areas that are Jewish, no, they didn't. They did not. I know that for a fact. Because somebody who's running for Baltimore County Executive, they control the whole county. So I guess they're just assuming that a Democrat is going to take power again. It's disgusting to me that you have these partisan groups, and they're supposed to be 501c3s, nonprofit. They're supposed to be nonpartisan. They're not supposed to endorse any candidate before the primary or endorse, period. But the fact that they limited it to only Democrat candidates and Democrat county councilmen. As a Jewish person, regardless of party, my ears go up. Again, just because you are Jewish, that does not mean that you should only vote Democrat. You have a choice. You have a choice in Maryland. You have a choice nationwide to vote for the person that represents you, just like you had a choice in November 2024. And I thank the majority of Jews and even the American Israeli Jews that voted for President Trump. So before we get to our segment 2, our guests, don't forget that we have our sponsor, FoliumPX.com. That's FoliumPX.com. Toxic heavy metals, guys, full body detox, free radical support. That is the QR code. I love these supplements. They've really helped me. And, I've been traveling all over the country and the world, and I go to all different types. I've been living and staying in all different types of environments. These work. These help with your body. I went to acupuncture the other day. The guy was like, oh my God, your body, I can just feel it detoxing. And it's because of these supplements. And I recommended these supplements to him because they're all natural. So please, guys, go to FoliumPX.com. And please, guys, click on that QR code. There is a discount in there. He always has specials. Mother's Day is coming up. I know you mothers like to look good on Mother's Day. It's coming up in a couple weeks, May 12th. I'm getting some for my mom. She loves them. She feels very energized. So this is a great Mother's Day gift. FoliumPX.com. We'll be right back, guys, after the break. Don't forget to follow us live.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Levine. I'm a professional opera singer, actress, TV, and radio personality. Since 2015, I've been a volunteer, a field director, and a campaign manager, learning the ins and outs of the political world. That's why I became a political consultant. My job is to lead you to victory with organization, structure, and the mindset of winning for your district or state. With my guidance and direction, I can keep you focused on the things that matter to the people and advise you on key issues that need to be addressed. If you're a serious candidate that is serious about winning, then book a consultation with me today. Go to levineconsulting.co. You'll be happy you did.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back. We have an exclusive interview tonight with another candidate, and he was brought to my attention by my good friend, Colt Black, Jack Felton. He's running for Frederick County Council at Large, District 2. I'm so happy to have him on the program. I'm so glad that Colt Black connected me with him. That is his website. That's his QR code, and we're going to put him up right now.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for being with us tonight.
Of course. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's get into it. So, Mr. Felton, you are becoming or trying to become a county councilman from District 2 at large. And what I read before is you actually switched from county council to at large. Tell the public or tell my platform, why did you switch and what made you run for county council to begin with?
Yeah, originally I live in District 2 out of the 5 districts in Frederick. And so I filed for District 2, and then 2 other candidates filed in District 2. So we had 3 really good candidates, all qualified, all good guys in the same district. And so that went on for about a month or so. And as we approached the deadline to file, we had no one at large. There's 2 seats at large in Frederick County, and we're, each seats for the Republicans, we try to get 2 candidates, and the Democrats, they try to get 2 candidates. They actually have 4. So I was getting some conversations from a Republican Party who were saying, hey, 3 of you are in the same district. One's going to move forward, 2 are going to go home, and here we have at large wide open. And since I had some name recognition in Frederick County, I lived in Mount Airy, I lived in Middletown, I lived in Newmarket, and I was the postmaster of Mount Airy, Jefferson, and Walkersville. So I decided to, it would be best for the Republican Party as a whole to move to at large in hopes to get one of those seats, if not both, and then in hopes of District 2 getting one of the candidates' seats on the Republican side as well. So that's why I switched over.
That's awesome. So have you ever run for anything before? Have you always been in politics, or did you wake up and say, you know what, I want to make a difference in my community?
Yeah, I have. This is a first. This is definitely a first, but I tell you, it's a lot of work for sure, but it's exciting and I'm enjoying it, meeting a lot of great people. My father always was really into politics. And when he came out of the war, he ran up in Massachusetts. And so he always was really into it. And after Charlie Kirk was murdered, I went to a candlelight vigil in Baker Park in Frederick. And after they had a very nice presentation for Charlie Kirk, they opened the microphone up, and I just felt compelled to go up and say a few things about how horrible I felt that it was that this happened to Charlie. It was terrible, great guy. And when I was done talking, a lot of people said, hey, you should run for something. You're passionate. And so that really inspired me to do something, because I love Frederick County. My kids were born and raised in Frederick County, and I want to ensure that it's a great place to raise a family and to continue to live for myself, all the residents, and my children.
Now, as county councilman, you do have some leverage here, especially when it comes to dealing with, or I wouldn't say dealing, but especially when it comes to ICE, photo ID, the bag tax, and helping our kids and working with the county executive. Now, as you know, in your county, they issued a bag tax, which I never thought in your county they would. They started in Montgomery County, and then, of course, they pivoted to Baltimore County years later, Anne Arundel County, and then your county hit it too. Tell us, how has that affected your county? Because I know it has. And why in Maryland? Why? And these are Republicans, I would say rhinos, Republicans in name only. A lot of them support, taxing their constituents. Why does that keep happening?
That's a great question, and I am against that. I would like to change that rule, and I think there are some rhinos that, the Democrats, they do some crazy stuff, and there's some rhinos out there that are doing crazy stuff. When I'm elected to county council, I am definitely going to create a bill and legitimately take that away, because I'm against it. I don't agree with it at all, and I wish that didn't happen. But when elected, I'm going to get the opportunity to change that.
Now, I know this didn't happen near you, but as you know, the Francis Scott Key Memorial Bridge, it has been such, it's tragic that it happened, but also it's a travesty for people that work in the Baltimore County area. I know for a fact that there were people that were going from Frederick County to Baltimore County to work daily, and they were going up and down that bridge. So it's hurt a lot of jobs, especially a lot of manufacturing jobs. Now, 2 years into it, Governor Westmore had to cut back the contract that he was working with this contractor, because I think the contractor was requesting too much money, according to Westmore. But the problem is that Westmore is asking too much. Now, because they don't have a contractor, they're starting back at square one, and they may not get that bridge fully done until maybe 2031 or 2034 at this stage. What say you?
Yeah, that's terrible. That's affecting so many people. I have neighbors that traveled that bridge, and it's added so much to their commute and the frustrations. They're trying to get jobs at home now, working from home remotely, because their commute is horrible, and the extra costs and gas and mileage and everything that they have to deviate around that, and is really wearing on the people. And it's terrible it's going on this long, and now they're projecting it to go even longer. So I think it's horrible what's happening to these people. And I know people personally who it's affecting in my neighborhood.
Now, as you know, Governor Westmore, he loves to rely on the federal government. And when Biden was, quote, in power, which he really wasn't, he promised full federal funding, which is what Governor Westmore wants. He wants full federal funding for the bridge. The problem is he opened his big mouth to Trump and was, totally, against Trump, pushing back on Trump. So was the attorney general. So Trump's like, well, screw you. Like, you're not getting an ounce. Like, you're not getting anything. You opened your big mouth. And now we have a situation where the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, may have to come in and clean up Governor Westmore's mess. What say you about that?
Yeah. Oh, Governor Westmore, being polite, I'm against pretty much everything he goes with. I don't agree with him. He's, radically left. And I absolutely support President Trump and his decisions. I'm a big President Trump fan. I think that he's done a great job thus far. And I agree with his decision making about that and cutting him off.
I appreciate you saying that. It's very sad, what Governor Westmore is doing. And what I'm noticing a lot in your county, because I worked with Cole Black and Jamie Brennan, there's so much of the people that are just fed up with a lot of the Democrats in power, to the point where you have conservatives on the school board in Frederick County, which is amazing. And my friend Sam Rosenblum, who's been on our program, he's trying to run also, and he's also Republican.
Yes,
so
I know Sam.
Yeah, it's awesome. So you're right, and one of the biggest I don't say reasons, but one of the biggest things that Colt Black and Jimmy Brennan did to win is that they stuck to their own issues. And, they didn't say, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat. They stuck to the issues, the local issues. What local issues are you going to stick to as a county councilman? But on the campaign trail, what are some local issues that you're hearing from constituents that they want you to make a difference for them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just right now, I'm just so focused on Frederick County. That's my concern, is Frederick County. It's a big country. Washington, D.C. is not that far from us, but it's about Frederick County right now. And it's about restoring moral and traditional values. Our tax rate for property tax is above the national average. When I first moved into Frederick County in 1994, I paid $2,800 a year in property tax. Now I pay $8,600 a year in property tax. It's ridiculous. It's really pricing people out, and people who are trying to buy into Frederick County with the high tax rate that we have right now, it's making it hard for them to afford housing. I'm very much about the data centers that came into Adamstown. That's affected a lot of people down there. The value of the homes has dropped. I've talked to a few people who their value has dropped almost $100,000 since the data centers are going in, because they live close to them. So if any more data centers are coming into Frederick County, next time around, we're going to tell them where they're going to be built and how they're going to be built without the diesel generators on the rooftops. It's a big concern. And putting a data center 900 feet from an elementary school was terrible. And then we have the power lines that are going to go through a lot of beautiful farmland. I'm against that. Keeping Frederick County safe. I do support the police. I support the firefighters, the EMTs, the county nurses, our teachers. Definitely support them. But I want to make sure Frederick County stays a place that's absolutely beautiful. Our farmland, we have more farms in Frederick County than any county in the state of Maryland. and we're known for farming. So I really, really want to preserve our beautiful farmland, support our farmers, and try to keep Frederick County, the rolling hills and the beautiful mountainsides that's currently there.
I appreciate that because, President Trump is really big about the farms and the farmers, and so are local people that live in your county as well. As you know, there has been a lot of exposure that the Chinese were owning American farmland, which is just insane. And that was under Joe Biden and that administration. That was totally, completely insane.
It's insane.
It's insane. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things in your county, and this was actually when I say the auto pen was in power, had to do with ICE. And, as you know, ICE they're fabulous. They protect the citizens. But of course, you have Democrats that, want to call them modern day Gestapo, and they try to push back on ICE. As you know, you have a great sheriff, Sheriff Jenkins, who's a personal friend of mine. He's running for sheriff again, and he completely supports ICE. He's worked with Thomas Holman. As county council, what dent can you put in to the people and, to say, hey, we're going to work with ICE, and it is what it is. We need protection here. And the fact that, anybody, regardless of party, would push back on them is just completely asinine. What say you about that?
It's really crazy because what ICE is doing is when someone commits a crime and they're found to be illegal, they came into this country, they broke a law, they came into this country illegally, and then they come in and they they commit a crime, they get arrested, and then ICE then steps in, and then they can go through the process of getting them out of this country. So the thought that people are against, number one, people coming in or agree with people coming in the country illegally, and then they're okay with them committing a crime and us not getting them out of the country is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And ICE is not walking down the street, going up to people and asking them for their citizenship. It's after they commit a crime. They came into this country illegally. They committed a crime. They broke the law. They got arrested. And during the processing of their arrest, it was determined that they're here illegally. So the the sheriff then turns them over to ICE, and then ICE does what they need to do with them. But the thought that that's wrong and that's bad is ridiculous. I support ICE. I don't, of course, I don't want ICE going down and going up to people, which they're not. They're only stepping in after they commit a crime. So I support that. I think it's great. I think if they come into this country and commit a crime and they're here illegally, they should go through the ICE process of they determine what needs to be happening to them, maybe deported or whatever the situation is. But I support ICE doing their job.
Well, I find it very funny and hypocritical that, the Democrats are bitching that ICE agents wear masks, but yet they were bitching at us to, wear the damn mask, for as long as we did in Maryland. I mean, I was in Maryland during the COVID situation. It was just awful. I mean, your county took forever to reopen. Montgomery County was the second to last county to reopen. So I find that very asinine that the Democrats are bitching that ICE agents want to protect their faces, but they mandated all of us to, quote, protect our face, even though we didn't need to at that time.
Well, and it's ridiculous, too, because there's so much hatred on the Democratic side towards ICE. I don't blame them because, then they're going home to their families and their wives and maybe little children and trying to have some home life. And then they have to worry about somebody going by and maybe vandalizing their home or, God forbid, even or something worse. So I don't blame them. They got to go home after they do their great job every day, and they have to go home to a family, and they want to ensure their family is safe. So I don't blame them for doing that at all.
One thing I want to ask you about is, as a county councilman, you can try to fund the reduction or even minimize these No Kings rallies or these pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas rallies that happen in your county. I know in Frederick County and obviously all over Maryland, they have them a lot. They pop up. And yes, you're expressing your freedom of speech, but sometimes it does turn into hate speech. And some of these signs are very hateful. How as a county councilman, what can we do to minimize or reduce, all that action that can potentially hurt an innocent civilian?
Yeah, I would support a bill or law that held someone accountable for posting a sign that is threatening to people or threatening to someone in an official position or verbally threatening them. And I think that's wrong of course, freedom of speech is what this country is based on, and that's great. But then there's a limit, though. There's a point where it's not freedom of speech. It becomes threatening. And I would support, holding those people accountable, even in the legal process for doing something like that. I would 100%, because this is a great country. We're lucky that we are born in this country, or that you came into this country legally, like my grandfather did from Italy, legally through Ellis Island. And I think it's crazy that people have so much hatred to this great country, and they continue to live here. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why do you hate it so much? Why do you talk so poorly about it? But you wake up here every morning and continue to live here because it's the best place in the world. And they just want to complain about things instead of appreciating how blessed we are.
I agree with you. One last question. This kind of doesn't have to do with your running, but the question of, President Trump almost being assassinated for the third time. And why is this happening? And he was in D.C. It should have been completely secured. Secret Service should have had that whole area secured. That hotel should have been secure. Why? Well, we know why this is happening. But for anyone to have the audacity to take a train from L.A. to Chicago down to D.C., why he had all these guns on him, stayed in a hotel, had all these guns on him. And again, it could happen to any one of us. You were in Frederick Park. We have rallies there all the time. It's just asinine to me that this is happening in our country and that we have to worry. What were your thoughts when you heard that the president almost got shot the third time? And it wouldn't have been just the president, it would have been the first lady, the vice president, everybody, pretty much. There was and everyone in the media. There were some pretty big names. There's 2,000 people there on Saturday night at the Washington Hilton. Does this give you flashbacks of Ronald Reagan? I want to know your perspective on that.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, there's so much going on the radical left side, and people are doing things and wanting things and are expecting things just because they want it their way. And even though they're in the minority, they go against the majority. They want to say that they're allowed to they're a man, but they want to use a ladies' bathroom and participate in sports with women. And it's unfortunate that we've allowed that to happen, that we've agreed to that. That's unfortunate. And President Trump has a lot of hatred towards him, unfortunately. There's a lot of people that do not like him and hate him and want to do harm to him and kill him. And I think it's terrible. And it's unfortunate because I don't think it's going to stop. I mean, the man needs to be protected. He's doing a great job. And a lot of people literally can't stand him. And I want to tell you this, when President Biden was in office, of course, I disagreed with what he was doing. I thought he was incompetent. He had a lot of mental issues. It was sad that he was really a president with his state of mind. But I wanted him to do well. Of course I did. He's the president. I want him to do a great job for our country. Unfortunately, he didn't, but I was rooting for him. I'm an American. Of course, I'm going to root for our president to do a good job. But it's just the opposite now. The Democrats want President Trump to fall right on his face, to screw up, to make mistakes, instead of rooting for him. Even if you don't like the man, he's our president, and you should love the country and hope he does a great job for our country, for our people, for our children. So it's unfortunate there's so much hatred for someone who's trying to do a great job for our country.
Well, that's a good point, because when Barack Obama won once and twice, the whole country didn't burn down in flames. I wasn't very happy with it, but we all put up with it. We put up with him for 8 years. Exactly. So it's very disgusting to me that President Trump gets in and all of a sudden there's riots and there's this and there's that and malicious intent everywhere. And a lot of those people have not been held accountable. Now they're getting held accountable. I really hope, Comey goes to jail for a long time. I know for a fact that President Obama is the target. A lot of people think that President Obama did orchestrate the third assassination attempt, because there was a lot of things on Truth Social going around about, that Obama is the next one to be, thrown in jail. So we'll have to see about that. But what Obama did to Trump, how he spied on his campaign, it's so asinine and disgusting. And he's still walking free and sitting free. And we can't allow these people to go free. If President Trump did not win the presidency, he'd probably be in jail today, which is disgusting for something he did not do, for 34 BS. It was one conviction that was rewritten 34 times. It's such BS convictions. We all know this.
It's crazy.
So yeah, it's crazy. The things that President Trump and his family have had to endure. And that's why it was interesting, he almost got shot and his family almost got shot. And then the King and Queen of England came and the president threw this beautiful dinner and just beautiful arrangement for the King and Queen after all of that. And that just shows you the power of the man. That just shows you the strength of the man, the wonder of the man, the amazement of the man. And nobody should wish ill of the president and his family. We shall be praying for the president and his family. And I thank you so much for coming on our program. Tell my viewers how we can follow you, how we can donate to you, when is your election, and so forth.
Okay, the election is June 23rd. So when you go to vote on June 23rd, you're going to be able to vote in your district. And then you're also going to get the opportunity to vote at large. That's where you're going to see my name at large, because I cover the entire county. That's June 23rd. You can go to my website. It's Felton for Council. And there's also a QR code there that you could please donate if you would like to. And I'm going to be having a fundraiser probably after the primaries, maybe in June or July. Then I'm going to open up and publicize, and people are more than welcome to come and have a good time, get to meet me, talk to me, meet my family, and then hopefully donate because we have to get some Republicans into office here. We've got to get Republicans to the county council. And that takes people to go out and vote. You have to tell your friends, your family, your neighbors. You have to not only support the Republicans, myself at large and other candidates, but you have to make sure you go out and vote on the 23rd. And we do not want Frederick County turning into a Montgomery County. And if we don't get more Republicans on the county council, that's going to be, we're going to be in jeopardy of losing this great, beautiful county that we all cherish and live in.
I agree with you. I mean, I educate as a political consultant. I educate people all the time, especially when they live in liberal states and liberal cities and liberal counties, to start locally and work your way up. And I mean, I hate to say it, that's how Mondami did it. That's how Johnny Oshefsky did it in Baltimore County. They started on the local level, and sky's the limits. Skies are really the limits. And it's funny because most Democrats don't really pay attention to the local level. As they don't, and then they just pivot straight to Congress or pivot straight to Senate or whatever. But I really feel that there should be more inspiration for Republicans to run on the local level in a Democratic state and Democratic district, because they do have a higher percentage chance of making a difference and getting in that seat. And we've seen that a lot. Exactly.
Yep, I agree.
Well, thanks so much. We really appreciate you having on. We'd love to have you on again.
Of course. Just let me know. It's a pleasure, and I'm happy to come back whenever you like to have me.
Thank you so much, Jack.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we leave for this segment, don't forget we have our second sponsor, rncstore.com/ALL. That's rncstore.com/ALL. Type in ALL in capital letters. You get 10% off. Richardson Nutritional Center, great supplements also to help cure cancer, to help with detoxing as well. As you know, I'm into all natural products. If you're pregnant or expecting, this is great for you. If you have cancer, if you're going through cancer, if you just finished cancer, if you have osteoporosis, if you have early signs of dementia or Alzheimer's, this is very good for people basically of all ages and ailments. So please, guys, go to rncstore.com/ALL. Type in ALL. If you don't type it in, you don't get the discount. Of course, the more you spend, the more you get. We'll be right back. Don't forget, guys, we are live now on Rumble, on Truth Social, on TikTok, on YouTube, on X, on Spotify, on Substack, on Facebook. We're on like 15 different networks. I just want to say thanks to people that have been commenting on this show throughout this half hour or this hour. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And I know there's a lot of people that are watching that are not commenting. I appreciate that as well. And we are being seen nationwide and worldwide. So thanks, guys. Stick with us. We have a great segment coming up next, and we will be right back after the break.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up. Because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. But America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. The New Jersey State House Watch, hosted by Jack Brangen and Constance Detzel. APN's The Pulse is moderated by either Alexandra, Damon, Elena, or Seth. Also tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: Join the revolution, because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello, this is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. You're all in tonight with me, Alexandra Levine. Thanks for sticking with us. This segment is a little bit more serious than the other two, and that's why it's called Words Have Meaning. Now, as you know, last Saturday night, there was a third assassination attempt on President Trump's life at the Washington Hilton at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, I can tell you as a White House correspondent with the press, I was invited to go. I couldn't go because I was in another state, but I will be going when they have the new one coming up. I know President Trump wants to put it together in 30 days. The committee's like, I don't know. It takes a lot of preparation, whatever. But we will keep you informed when the new one will be presented. And of course, I made the point that the ballroom that President Trump is creating in the White House, which has been stonewalled and stopped because of a stupid liberal judge because she didn't like the way it looked. She was walking her dog at the time when she said it. Because of her, people's lives were on the line. You have to think of the people that were there. The FLOTUS was there. The POTUS was there. J.D. Vance was there. I think his wife was there. Caroline Leavitt, who's about to pop, she's very pregnant, was there. Erica Kirk was there. Stephen Miller and his very pregnant wife was there. And a lot of the Trump cabinet members were there, like Pete Hegseth and his wife, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his wife were there. I'm trying to think who else. Why am I blanking? Pete. Oh, Dan Scavino Jr. And his wife was there. I don't know if Susan Wiles was there. She probably was there. I had it all written down. I forgot, but I'm looking at their face. I'm blanking on the name. But there was a lot of Linda McMahon was there. She's the Department of Education. She was there. A lot of heads were there. Secretary of Interior was there. They're all coming back now. It was a huge plethora. Oh, Sean Duffy was there with his wife. Huge plethora of big name people that work for Trump that were there at that dinner. There was about 2,000 people there. And of course, 90% of them are Democrats. They work for the mainstream media. These are people that have blatantly told lies and reported unfairly about President Trump for almost 10 years now. But at that moment, when shots were heard, and they pulled the president out right away, and they pulled the vice president out right away, and people were crawling and then backstage, and people were crawling underneath their tables. That was actually a come-together moment for the country. And then President Trump, he wanted to come back. Secret Service took him in his motorcade, and he kept saying, the show will go on, I will be back. But Secret Service had to clear him. Law enforcement had to clear him, make sure it was good to go. And they said, President Trump, they're like, it's going to take hours for us to make sure that the room and the area is clear. And as a result, he didn't go back, but he did a press conference at 10 p.m. with as many press as he could get down there. But it was a come together moment. And President Trump actually allowed Caitlin Collins of CNN to ask a few questions, and some people of the mainstream media that have shitted on him for years to ask questions. But my question to you is, to the mainstream media, now that you see what it's like, a day in the life of President Trump, how people want to kill him because of the rhetoric that you've spewed out for years, because the things that you have called him, a racist, a homophobe, Islamophobe, a pedophile, don't you think that your rhetoric is the reason why these people go nuts and go crazy and want to take a train from LA to Chicago to DC with a bunch of guns in their hands? A teacher from LA out of nowhere. Do you think that the mainstream media would maybe back off? Maybe not crap on President Trump? Maybe dial it down? Dial the rhetoric down? And it's funny because, of course, Congressman Jamie Raskin, Democrat, Jewish a-hole of Maryland, he gets on the mainstream media on Sunday, and the anchorwoman, Dana Bash, or CNN, said, don't you think your rhetoric is like, the reason why these things are happening to President Trump? Don't you think you need to dial down? And he plays dumb. He's like, what rhetoric? What are you talking about? What rhetoric? And then President Trump, the kindness of his heart, decided to take a last-minute interview with Norah O'Donnell, who everybody used to like back in the day. They called her Blue Eyes. She had the audacity to read parts of the guy's manifesto, which could stem another attack, which could cause another crazy and incite violence. And President Trump looks at her like, you're an idiot. Why would you do that? Why would you read the guy's manifesto? Why would you reiterate the things that he thinks of me? So then she plays dumb and she's like, was he referring to you? Of course he was referring to President Trump. They admitted that President Trump and his administration were targets, and high people in the cabinet were targets. My question is, how the hell did that guy just have time to load up his gun and run past Secret Service as fast as he could? And Secret Service, they draw their guns very quickly, but they shot and they missed him. They did like 7 shots and they missed the guy. There was a ton of Secret Service. I mean, you see it in the video. How could you miss the guy? There's such lack of training with the United States Secret Service. I blame the former director for this. Sean Kernan just got in there and he's trying to fix them, trying to make it better. But it's not enough. And these women that work in Secret Service, they're awful. They don't even know how to put a gun in a holster. These were the same women that tried to protect Trump during Butler. They had no clue. No clue. We don't want any more assassination attempts, and we especially don't want one that causes President Trump to not be with us anymore. And it was interesting, when he was talking about his parents, how they were married for 63 years. And he looked at Melania and he said, I'm sorry, Melania, we're not going to last the 63 years. We're going to last, but we're not going to last 63 years. And I started to get emotional at that moment because President Trump is almost 80. I hope that he has many, many more years to live. He has 20 to 30 years left to live. But he's not stupid, and he knows that he could die at any minute. He knows that he's not going to be married to his wife for 63 years. But he also said something great on that podium. He says, I have to live. I have to live for this country. I was put on this earth to do something. And the reason the left is coming after me is because I'm doing something. And I believe that he has been touched by an angel. I believe that God watches him all the time. I believe that God will decide when he shall live and he shall die. I believe in that meme picture where people freaked out, where they claimed he looked like Jesus Christ. I believe he looked like Moses in that picture. And nobody knows where the body of Moses is. He ascended up. God took him up. And Moses was a very, very old man when he died. And he had a very special relationship with God. And I believe that President Trump has a special relationship not only with God, but with the people of this country, with everyday Americans. That's why he has to live. That's why I know he will live. He'll live all of us. So these Democrats that want to get rid of him, the more they try, the more it doesn't work. Thank God that gunman didn't end up in the ballroom. That's all I can say. But as I talked about before, there was one person that was there, Erica Kirk. We all know that the poor girl has suffered so much, and she had to relive the moment in her head of a gunman trying to either shoot her, shoot the president. As you know, her husband was killed by a radical. He's on trial right now. But she has to relive that moment every single day. And she goes home to no one. She goes home alone. She's a widow at 37 years old with 2 young kids that really don't know their father. And there was a live video showing her crying, and she cries and says, I just want to go home. And she got on yesterday on the Charlie Kirk show, and she talked about how she felt in that moment. And she was great because she told the American people what they needed to hear. She called out the Democrats. She called out Candace Owens, to the point now that her Secret Service is actually suing Candace Owens for defamation. Candace Owens has consistently slandered Erica Kirk since the murder of her husband. She even said that Erica Kirk had something to do with her husband's death, which is disgusting, for clicks and likes. We all know that Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk did have a relationship for a while, and then she went off to Britain, cheated on Charlie Kirk with the guy that she's married to now, who's a big lib. And what was Charlie to do? Charlie Kirk made Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk brought her under his wing, not knowing what an anti-Semite biatch she is. And she's not a holy Christian person either. She's a piece of crap. She doesn't like Trump, never did. She hates Jews. I'm sure she always has. And I'm really glad that Erica Kirk finally called her out. Let's go to the first slide. I see I'm slightly delayed with the first slide. The first slide actually talks about Erica Kirk. There it is. So Erica Kirk, she said this verbatim: every morning I wake up to another headline lying about me. I have comedians dressing up in whiteface. I have people saying I'm not fit to be CEO. And I have Candace Owens claiming that I murdered my husband. And that's true. I mean, the poor woman has suffered enough. Leave her alone. They're saying she should be taking care of her children. She shouldn't be doing this. This is too much for her. It's too emotional for her. They're just jealous. These people are jealous. And she could close up Turning Point USA right now. She's the CEO. If she doesn't want to lead it, she doesn't have to lead. She can close the whole thing down. But she is choosing to lead it because that was her husband's wishes. And she's fulfilling the rest of her husband's dream. And she has everything in print, what he wants to do with the future of Turning Point. I'm so sick and tired of people attacking this woman. She's a beautiful blonde-haired woman. She had a beautiful life before her husband died. You think this woman is a happy woman? You think she goes home and she's smiling? No, she's miserable. She's still in mourning. She grieves every day. But going on his show, being the CEO, keeps her moving. Being a mother keeps her moving. But she's a broken woman. And nobody cares about that. Nobody realizes there's a difference between your husband dying suddenly from a heart attack, or you know your husband has cancer and he only has a few months or years to live, or one day you wake up and you give your husband a kiss on the lips and he says, I'll see you home later, honey, or I'll see you tonight. And then you watch on the TV that your husband was just murdered, or he died in a plane crash or a car crash. And he was perfectly healthy. And he was young with many more years to live. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody puts themselves in her shoes. God forbid that happens to any one of you. I feel so bad for this woman. I pray for her all the time, but she's a smart woman. She's a beautiful woman. She's an ambitious, driven woman. And she made Charlie Kirk a better man. He grew up a lot because of her. She's like 7 years older than him. And he matured because of her. I thank her for making Charlie the man that he was when he was murdered. Before he was murdered, I should say. Because she stepped in as wife, understood the roles. He understood the role as husband, and they worked together as a phenomenal team. And they would have been married a long time They would have lasted. I know they would have. And they're still lasting, even though he's not physically there. So for all you damn people that are jealous of her success and her marriage, take a look at yourselves and take a look at the mirror. Maybe you should try to find a Charlie Kirk or an Erica Kirk. Maybe if you had one of those people in your life, you wouldn't be so damn miserable. So shame on you, Candace Owen. Shame on you. Shame on you for acting like the whore that you are, for speaking like the whore that you are, and for taking advantage of people that really, truly believed in you and wanted to help you. And shame on you for crapping on all your former followers. And karma is a biatch. And what I'm reading and seeing is that karma is coming to Candace very soon. Let's go to the next slide. So this is even more disgusting. Again, words have meaning. That's the topic of discussion. So Jimmy Kimmel, this was a couple days before the assassination attempt. He went on his stupid show and he said some comments like foreshadowing what was going to happen to Melania. It says, wow, President Trump said, wow, Jimmy Kimmel, who is in no way funny, is attested by his terrible television ratings, made a statement on his show that is really shocking. He showed a fake video of the First Lady, Melania, and our son, Barron, like they were actually sitting in a studio listening to him speak, which they weren't and never would be. He then stated, our First Lady, Melania, is here. Look at Melania, so beautiful. Mrs. Trump, you are a glow like an expectant widow. A day later, a lunatic tried entering the ballroom of the White House Correspondents' Dinner loaded up with the shotgun, handgun, and many knives. He was there for a very obvious and sinister reason. I appreciate that so many people are incensed by Kimmel's despicable call to violence and normally would not be responsive to anything that he said, but this is something far beyond the pale. Jimmy Kimmel should be immediately fired by Disney and ABC. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I agree with President Trump on this completely. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel was suspended because he attacked Charlie Kirk after Charlie Kirk was murdered. But this was him foreshadowing, saying that President Trump's going to die, he's going to lose his life. Now, Jimmy Kimmel didn't say how President Trump was going to die or lose his life, but a lot of people believe that because Jimmy Kimmel said this, maybe it triggered the young man, or not the young man, but the teacher to do what he did. Because the teacher was 31 years old, his whole life ahead of him, the dumb idiot. But again, it's rhetoric like this that causes people to go insane and thinking that they can get away with it. Jimmy Kimmel should not be able to get away with it. Now you're messing with the President of the United States and the First Lady and Barron. It's not funny, Jimmy. You're not funny. And I know that the First Lady is working on a huge major lawsuit if he doesn't get fired. They will sue Disney and ABC. They will sue Jimmy Kimmel. They'll do whatever they can to get this guy off the air. He shouldn't have a job. And there's actually a funny image meme going around of Melania handcuffing Jimmy Kimmel. That is hilarious and hysterical. But you know what? I would pay a lot of money to see Melania Trump handcuff that a-hole. He wouldn't be laughing. He wouldn't be smiling as much. His jokes in the jail cell are not going to help him with the guy that's going to be beating his butt up next to him. It's disgusting and despicable. And everyone's like, well, it's his freedom of speech. But again, words have meaning. Just like there's a distinction between freedom of speech and hate speech. When you constantly call someone a pedophile, a rapist, an adulterer, a sexist, a misogynist, a chauvinist, an Islamophobe, a xenophobe, someone who hates women, people start to believe the lie over and over and over again. And then you get crazies. Now, the teacher isn't really cooperating when it comes to, was anybody else involved? I believe that somebody else was involved. I believe it was probably the doings of George Soros and Obama, which I hope that it gets proven, because I believe that Obama's hands are all over this. Why would a 31-year-old teacher take a train to try to kill the President of the United States? Why would he write this ridiculous manifesto 10 minutes before he was about to kill the president and think it's okay? Why would anybody try to kill the president? Are they that stupid to ruin their life? to end up in jail for the rest of their life, death row, death penalty, and so forth, to rot in a jail cell? Was it really worth it? It's not worth it. Like Jack said, even though you may not like the guy, he's still your president and you still have to respect him. Now, he's not a king. We don't bow down to him, but he is our commander in chief and we must respect him. Just like we must respect the first lady and J.D. Vance and his wife and so forth. I'm so disgusted at how the mainstream media has gone way too far and how Jimmy Kimmel was allowed to say the things that he is saying and he still has a job. My question to my audience, what do you think? What do you think about all this? And then at the press conference, Melania Trump gave a face to the media, a face of strength, a face of knowing, a face of longing, of yearning, a face of, I know you people are the ones that are responsible for this, a face of power. A face of a woman that could have died the night of her birthday, because her birthday was the next day, April 26th. The face of a woman who is of class and poise. A face of a woman who has endured so much for 10 years that she will continue to wear those power suits and those power outfits. She will continue to look gorgeous, to have her hair freshly done, fresh makeup. And she will continue to give you that face of power, her game face, until the day she dies, which I hope won't be anytime soon. She knows what the mainstream media has done to her husband and her family for years. She could feel in the room what we the people have been thinking and feeling. That's why I admire this woman. I look up to this woman. I respect this woman. And everybody should too, as well as the commander-in-chief. And he's doing such great things for this country, but we don't see them or hear them because of the mainstream media throwing other crap in our faces and trying to distract us. I really hope when the history books are written and people look back on President Trump and the FLOTUS, that they honor them and that they say, you know what, he was one of the best presidents of our time. That I'm so happy that I got to live on this earth knowing that he was the president. You Democrats, you radicalists, you may not appreciate it now, but you'll appreciate it 10, 20 years from now. I know you'll say to yourself, I lived under the great era of Trump, the golden age. Now, speaking of candidates, as you know, we are in candidate season. And as you know, as a political consultant, there are candidates that I'm working with. Of course, we have my very good friend, Tim Fazenbaker of Baltimore County. He's running for Baltimore County Council District 9. This is a very MAGA district. His early voting starts June 11th. It's an entire week. And then his election is June 23rd. We need everybody out for early voting. Mail-in ballots come in a little bit before then. Everybody needs to vote for Tim for Baltimore County Council District number 9. This is a brand new district. This is an America First MAGA district. He's got Dundalk, Edgemere, and Sparrows Point. It's his base. It's where he lives. And we got to get him in office because he is going to do some great things for his district and for Baltimore County. And of course, we have my good friend, Kim Stansberry. She is actually having an event May 9th from 6 to 8 p.m. in Dundalk at the Bayside Grill. We're going to put up that flyer. It's also, you can go on her website, click that QR code, and you can actually make a donation to that event. That's going to be great because it's going to star Newsmax regular and awesome person, Rob Carson, who's a personal friend of mine, and he's done a lot of events. He's a personal friend of Tim's as well. We love the fact that Rob is going to be there. We love the fact that Kim is doing an event in Dundalk because you really need Dundalk to win the primary. You really do. And she's really not running against anybody important. She is the one that will win the primary. We got to get her to the general. She's going up against a big Democrat machine for the general. But we will post her flyer after the show. But May 9th, 6 to 8 p.m. It's a Saturday at the Bayside Bar and Grill in Dundalk. be there with Rob Carson. Tim Fazenberg will be there. A lot of other people will be there. It's going to be a sold-out event. Please, guys, come and show your support. And don't forget Daniel Eisenhardt. He's running for state senate in District 6. Oh, there we go. There we go. So it was kind of slow on our end. So there we go. So there it is. Campaign fundraiser, May 9th, 2026, 6 to 8 p.m. That's a QR code for that at the Bayview Sports Bar and Grill, 601 Wise Avenue. Please, guys, if you can't come, make a donation anyway. If you can't come, make the donation and make a double donation. We need to get this woman in office as your next Baltimore County executive, Republican, awesome woman. So our next candidate is Daniel Eisenhardt. He's running for State Senate District 6. He is running against an incumbent who's a liar and a known fraud, doesn't even live in the district. So please, guys, go to Daniel Eisenhardt, put him in office. He has signs up. He's asking people to take his signs. He has a real shot at winning this. He really does. And, you know, he's actually been attacked by his opponent. And he can get into you with that. But that's what happens, again, when you want to help the country, when you want to help the district, your incumbent opponent, you know, they want to take you on. They want to shut your voice. They want to take you down. Nope, Daniel Eisenhardt's a fighter, and we are fighting with him. So candidate for State Senate District 6 in Maryland. Then we have Sam Rosenblum, my good friend in Frederick County. He's running for Frederick County School Board. There we go, my friend Sam. Awesome guy, Jewish guy. Really knows a lot about artificial intelligence, about mechanics, engineering. He's a very smart man. He really wants to help our children. And we're going to have him on again very soon before the primary and before the general. But please, guys, please get him in. He's a really great guy. And he works with my friend Cole Black. And we need another Jewish conservative in office, please, God. Then we also have Marcel Serbeck. Marcel is awesome. I've been doing a lot of work on his campaign. He's running for Ohio Secretary of State as a contested primary as well. The early voting has already started in Ohio. It is a month early voting. Please, guys, like Saturday is the last day to early vote. And then May 5th, Tuesday, is the election. Got to get down to early voting. It's early voting right now is at the Board of Elections. Look at the Board of Elections near you. There's a lot of people that will be in the Medina area. You may see me there. You may not. We'll see. But I like to surprise people. But Medina is the place to be for him. So please, guys, that's a QR code. Vote for Serbeck. Get him in there. Let's get the rhinos out, and let's put a true conservative in office. And then you have Julie Spivey Perry, who's running for Congress for Virginia District 10. We're going to have her back on before the primary. As you know, they overturned the redistricting for congressional seats. So hopefully hers will go back to being a hardcore Republican district, but we got to get her in there and we got to donate to her. So please, candidate for U.S. Congress, Julie Spivey Perry. Then, of course, we go to our friend Justin Murphy, who's always on the pulse. We love him. He's running for U.S. Senate in New Jersey. Awesome guy, smart guy. He's definitely going to win the primary. We got to get him to the general. The general is always the hardest in liberal states. But awesome guy. He's been campaigning hard. He's been working with Constance and Jack Brangan and Damon Galdo, and he's just kicking butt and making a name for himself. And we really want him to win the primary. And then, of course, we have our good friend Damon Galdo from the Jersey Shore running for District Number 1 Congress. He's already won his primary. We got to help him into the general. You need money. Donate to him. There's a QR code. This guy has been all over the place. School board, meetings galore, evening events galore, meeting with people, meeting with constituents, crossing the aisle, talking to Democrats and independents. Damon Galdo is a great guy and a great father, and we need to put him in Congress because he will do phenomenal, phenomenal things. And then, of course, we have our friend Seth Eisenberg of the Conservative Corner. We still have his GoFundMe page. He has been suffering a lot this year, last year. He may be undergoing surgery very soon. You've got to donate to him, guys. Go to GoFundMe.com. Donate to Jonah Eisenberg to overcome a financial health crisis. We've raised over $6,400 for him, but it's like plateaued. So we need to continue to pump the dough into him. He's a veteran. He's a father. And we really need to help him out. And he's been suffering a lot this last year. And we need to get back to our veterans. We really need to get back to our veterans. And of course, guys, don't forget, we always have the Pulse every Wednesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. We are so sorry we didn't have the Pulse last night, but we will when we have it. You never know who's going to be the host. So stick with us. And of course, we let you know in advance if we're doing a repeated show or not. As you know, we have a new show, the New Jersey State House with Jack Bringen and Constance Ditzel. They're they're 2 Tuesdays of the month, sometimes even 3 Tuesdays of the month. So they're usually the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday of the month. So if you don't see me on a Tuesday, it's because they're on. And their show is really great, and it's getting a lot of buzz, and it's picking up so well. And they have such great viewership on that show. I watched that show. It's a really great show, very informative. Constance and Jack are very intelligent people. They're also always on the pulse with us too. But please, guys, you've got to follow them, like and subscribe to their show, and watch them 2 Tuesdays of the month, the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday, and possibly the 3rd Tuesday of the month as well. Of course, we still have Damon Gelder of the Jersey Shore every Monday night from 8 to 9 p.m. Awesome show, as you know, awesome content. He's got awesome guests on there. He shows a lot of videos. Great show, great content. And of course, there's always me, Alexandra Levine. You can follow me, Alexandra Levine, on Facebook at Alexandra Levine 20 on X, and A.L.L Levine 85 on Rumble, on True Social, on Parler, on TikTok. I'm very accessible. Thank you guys for watching. Again, I really appreciate the people that have been commenting throughout the show. Again, we are live. You can actually go on our website, americaspulsenetwork.com, and watch us live. Thanks, guys, so much. Thank you for watching. And the reason you listen and the reason you watch is you are no idiot.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
This is so amazing and miraculous. We've never had a president in the history of our nation doing this. And we hope to God that he continues doing this forever and ever. Thank you. God bless you, everybody. And God bless President Trump.
And God bless you.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with the America's Pulse Network. I am the White House correspondent right here in the heart of D.C. as President Trump is celebrating 250 years of America and the military.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
Alexandra, thanks you for watching tonight's Alexandra Levine live podcast. See you at the next packed show, from breaking news to informative topics that will keep you informed. So please click the subscribe button to get notified for upcoming episodes. If you like what the Alexandra talks about, then share the Alexandra Levine live podcast with others. Alexandra also looks forward to seeing you on the next upcoming episode.